So, Greg, the difference between fault finding and a quote. Can you explain why some quotes might need to have some fault finding done and why we would charge for that?
I think with fault finding, you've got to think of it like a doctor. And when you go to the doctor, you've got a problem and you want to find out what the problem is. And so the doctor will use their years of experience and knowledge to be able to, identify potentially what might be going on. But that might not come to a resolution either. And if we go to the doctor and we go and see someone and they go, well, I can see you've got some pain here, but we're going to need to go and do an ultrasound. So you get your script and you go to the ultrasound and they'll scan under your skin and find out that there's some other stuff that needs to happen. So there's a couple of stages that happen through that process to get to that level of understanding, to understand exactly what needs to happen. And there's special tools and equipment we have to use as electricians that's just like an ultrasound. And we can look into the cable and see if there's a problem, or look into the equipment to see what the problem is. And that takes time, and that's why, people would charge for fault finding over something like a quote, where it's more like going into a shop and saying, hey, how much is it for this box of cereal? And you would say, that's, this box of cereal, this shop is priced at this much.
Yeah.
And so, companies that can give out quotes without charging, they know the cost and the price of that particular thing you're asking a price for, because there's no diagnosis that needs to happen beforehand. The other thing is, you don't want to quote for something when you don't know what the real problem is. So we've had things in the past where you might say, oh, it's going to be this much, and then you go out and then you do the fault find, and then it's not that, and it's more, and then that's a big problem, because it's like, you said it was this much, but we didn't know the real problem. And so it's really important to do that fault finding first, because I've seen a lot of people burnt also with replacing something like an oven, because that's what they wanted. Just give me a quote, this is how much it is to replace the oven. And then they actually do the replacement and there's still a problem. And that's because they didn't do fault finding first. And now you're up for even more costs.
And provide the correct solution.
Absolutely.
So fault finding really is a way to provide the correct solution and options to the owner to make sure they're spending the money in the right place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And often saves a lot of money for the owner, because you've done the correct process on identifying exactly what needs to happen to get the best result.
So things like a light fitting, easy. You look at the light, you can price that up. That's just a straightforward quote. Things like an air conditioner, for example, you need to kind of investigate, have a look inside the equipment, diagnose that, where the fault is, and then you can quote the solution.
Yeah, but even a light fitting, it's fine if it's, hey, this light already works, there's no problem. How much for the light replacement? Easy, we can quote that, no problem. Hey, I've got a problem with my light, it's not working anymore, how much for a new light? Well, that's different, because we've got to actually check the circuit, we've got to check the switch, because it could also be the switch. It could be the cable in between the switch and the light. It could be the light fitting itself. So there's an element of fault finding that goes into that before we replace the light. So if there's a problem there, fault finding needs to occur first, otherwise you might be getting the wrong solution. If there's nothing wrong with the current installation and you want to know a price or something, just doing an upgrade, easy.
That makes sense.